Hey gamers! In this video I'm going to be going over the notion of acquiring furnishing plans, as well as some of the best spots to farm for the most valuable plans. I'm going to start off by mentioning some really useful pieces of information that may help you efficiently farm furnishing plans. But if you feel like you already know all this stuff, then feel free to skip ahead in the video to the part where I go over some pretty sweet farming routes. I'll leave timestamps in the pinned comment. One of the first things that you should know about farming furnishing plans is that once you acquire a plan, your character is placed on a cooldown, meaning that character cannot loot another furnishing plan for quite some time. While this has never been confirmed by ZOS, it is common knowledge among furnishing plan farmers, and there are a lot of forum posts and threads on Reddit that reinforce this notion. The general consensus is that the cooldown lasts for around 30 minutes once you loot a furnishing plan. From my personal experience, this sounds about right. I remember when Greymoor came out, and I was in that Dwarven public dungeon there, whatever the fuck it's called, and I thought I was being big brain. I was like, man, I'm gonna farm the heck out of this public dungeon, and I'm gonna get all these new and cool furnishing plans, and I'm gonna sell them, and basically, I'm gonna be a billionaire. But then what actually happened was that I got a furnishing plan from an urn, a pretty decent one mind you, and then I spent a long time running laps around that place, and I didn't end up getting another one. I thought the RNG gods had forsaken me, but in reality what was going on was that I was on a cooldown. It was literally impossible for me to get another furnishing plan to drop. I really wish I had known that before running laps aimlessly around whatever this place is called. So, given the fact that you get put on a cooldown once you loot a furnishing plan, you might be wondering, is it even possible to farm for furnishing plans then? Of course, you would just need multiple tunes to be able to be as efficient as possible, seeing as the cooldown is not account-wide, it only affects each character. If you have a bunch of alternate characters, you could park them in a popular furnishing plan farming location, and then just log into each one and run a quick lap around the area, looting every relevant piece of furniture in sight. A guy on my friends list that always sells me new furnishing plans when they first come out does exactly this. He parks all 10 of his tunes in a certain location and then logs into each one to run a quick lap around the area while he's in his online class. While I can't endorse skipping school to play ESO, I've gotta hand it to him, he's really efficient with his furnishing plan farming. The mad lad gets a handful of really expensive plans every time he does a whole round with all of his tunes, and I would know since I buy them. The guy makes a lot of gold by doing this. So what exactly are you supposed to be looting while you run around looking to farm plans? I'm glad you asked. I'll toss a whole list of the items that could drop a furnishing plan on the screen. Even if you aren't keen on the notion of actively farming for plans, it won't hurt you to loot these items while you play through other parts of the game, like dungeons or trials or overland questing. Just angle your camera over to these items and quickly loot what's inside. If you have auto loot turned on, this process takes a half second and you could get lucky and find a very valuable plan. You have a chance to loot a furnishing plan from the aforementioned objects in-game if you do so legally by searching them, or illegally by stealing from them. Although keep in mind that you supposedly have a lower chance of having a furnishing plan drop if you do so illegally, something worth noting when making your own farming routes in the future. However, some furnishing plans can only be acquired by looting them off of a specific kind of NPC. I'll give you guys a couple examples on the screen. That being said, it may be worthwhile to level up your Thieves Guild and Ledger Domain skill lines to unlock all sorts of passives that can help you sneak and loot more effectively. The plans that are exclusive to these unlawful behaviors are rare on the market, and likewise really expensive. Alright, let's get into all of the best locations to farm furnishing plans, organized by all the different kinds of furnishings in the game. Let's start with the big boys. Alien furnishing plans are among some of the most expensive plans in the game, so to no one's surprise I'm sure, they are among some of the most difficult plans to find. Alien plans have an incredibly low chance to drop from mobs in any alien ruin. I'd recommend farming public dungeons that contain alien ruins in them, such as Rulaniel's Fall in Greenshade, and Bonesnap Ruins in Stormhaven. Murkmire furnishing plans, particularly structural ones, have always been pretty expensive. They have a chance to drop from any of the previously mentioned containers. As I mentioned earlier, your best bet is to farm for these plans by searching and not by stealing. So I would recommend running around the unmarked, abandoned Argonian temple Xul Thuxis. If you search everything and are unlucky, you can always step out of the dungeon. Doing so will reset the instance and will repopulate all of the containers again for you to continue looting on the same character until you get a plan. Now, if you don't want to travel all the way to Xul Thuxis to farm, I'd recommend stealing from NPCs and furnishings alike around the Lil Moth Market and in the Brightthroat Village. Clockwork furnishing plans can also be quite lucrative and are oftentimes seen in some really extensive and impressive custom builds. They have a very low chance to drop from any factotum mob, and they may also be found in any of the aforementioned items in the Clockwork City zone. Your best bet is to farm the factotum mobs or check out the Basilica in the Brass City. There are 2 offices in the western end of the building that have several items that can be searched through. This is a pretty ideal spot to park all of your characters to speedrun searching for Clockwork plans. The central crafting area has plenty of containers that can be looted and NPCs that can be pickpocketed as well. Besides having a chance to drop from dragons, these furnishing plans can drop from any qualifying item in elsewhere. I would recommend running quick laps around the Royal Palace in Rimmen to farm for these, since there are just so many items to search through. If you like doing dailies and elsewhere, I would also recommend looting all of the urns in the Darkpool Mine, a location for one of the Delve dailies. There are a lot of urns littered throughout elsewhere, so just be sure to quickly loot them if you ever come across any. Before, the Trader's Vault in Artaeum used to be a prime spot to farm for plans, but after it got patched, your best bet for farming plans would be to run laps around the Shimmerine Monastery, given the abundance of searchable containers in this area. You could also check out the Durrani Acropolis and loot all of the urns, if you don't mind dunking on some undead mobs while you do so. Halalu, Redoran, Telvanni, Draz, and Indorel furnishing plans can drop from any qualifying container or lockbox in Vardenfell. The spot that I've always heard people recommend is the Dreoth Ancestral Tomb, located to the south of Sadrith Mora, because of the ridiculous amount of urns that it has. If you start but never finish the quest associated with this tomb, you will have unlimited access to the entire tomb, whereas if you finish it, you will only have access to half of it. Like I mentioned earlier, farming that Dwarven public dungeon in Blackreach seems like your best bet for these kinds of furnishings. There is a metric shit ton of lootable urns scattered all over the place, and this public dungeon also has a fair amount of chests that you can farm while you're at it. Not only can you get valuable Eternal Vigor gear from these chests, but these chests also have a chance to drop rare paintings. I've received a couple that were valued at over 200k from this place, so it's a great spot to farm all around. I've also found a lot of solitude plans from sneaking into homes in Markarth and looting everything inside, funnily enough. The point of interest, Bithar Dams, has a handful of lootable containers that could contain Reach furnishing plans in them. I prefer this place because of how it is conveniently located right by a Wayshrine and a Harrowstorm spawn location. This is actually one of the spots that the guy I mentioned earlier, the one who sells me all the new furnishing plans, likes to park all of his tunes so that he can run quick laps around the place with all of them. Those are all of what I believe to be the best spots to farm for the best and most valuable kinds of furnishing plans, but I know for a fact that there are plenty other amazing spots out there that I more than likely did not mention. So if you have a particular place in mind that you'd like to share, please feel free to do so in the comments below. I'm sure that the viewers would be eager to know, as would I. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I will see you in the next video. Cheers!